Hello everybody, welcome to Midwest Imagery. Today I'd like to show you briefly some of the steps that I take in my post-processing. I want to show you just some simple effective tricks to help brighten up an image and make some sparkle in the eyes in your photographs. And I'm going to do this in Photoshop, and I'm going to use probably 3, maybe 4 different layers, and I'll explain all that as I'm working along. So I have a few things to set up. Let me get my equipment together and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So right here I'm in Adobe Bridge, which is just a ramped up file browser. And I'm selecting this image to adjust a little bit of the brightness on her eyes and a little bit of the brightness on her face. So I'm going to open this up into Photoshop, but first it's going to stop in Camera Raw because this is a raw image. So here I am in Adobe Camera Raw, and I'm looking at her, and what I want to do first is look at this at 100%. Make sure her eyes are in focus. And that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I do that by on my Mac Command minus zooms me out. Now this is a pretty moody, dramatic shot, and I like it this way. But one of the things that I always will check is to see what does Photoshop think it should look like. And I'll go up here to this auto button right here, and I'll click that, and then I'll say, no, that's not the way that I want this to look. So I will put it back the way it was. And we will leave all of these other settings alone. These are our basic settings, and we can slide any one of these. That's our exposure, our contrast. Any one of these can be used to adjust the image as well too. And our white balance looks pretty good. As shot, we're at 6600. Let's just check it and see. And what we're looking for is somewhere that's going to be white or black or gray. And I'll try right here. I don't like that. Try the white of her eyes. I don't like that. That's a little warmer. Try it over here. It's a little less warm. Let's put it back to where it belonged. I kind of like it there, right out of my camera, just the way it is. But I want to brighten up her eyes and brighten up her face a little bit. So now I'm going to say open. Click on the open button, which gets us right into Photoshop now. And here we are in Photoshop. What we see is the image. We've got a couple of tabs across the top. And then here I have my layers panel open. And Photoshop is made up of several, you can use layers in Photoshop to work on your image. Our image here, I'm going to duplicate this background layer because I want to try and brighten up her eyes a bit. So I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut that's Command J on your Mac or Control J on your Windows. And I've just duplicated the layer. Both layers are identical. If I shut this layer off, it shows the same. If I shut this layer off, it shows the same. And we see there are these little eyeball icons beside each layer. This turns them on and turns them off, right? So what I'm looking to do here is brighten up her eyes in this particular set. So I'm going to change the way this layer interacts with this layer. And I'm going to use a layer blend mode that's found under this drop-down menu. And I'm going to use screen, and screen brightens the image up completely. Let's zoom in, Command or Control plus, and check her eyes. They're getting better, but I'm going to duplicate this layer one more time, Command or Control J, and get her eyes really bright where I want them. So now we can see the before and after if I hold my Option key and click on this eyeball, it shows us, it closes these two and keeps this one active. So here we are, here we are. Let's zoom out and look at it. Okay, so her eyes look good, but the rest of the shot doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these two layers together, and I'll right click and then I'll say merge down. You notice there's also a keyboard shortcut. So what that did is just made one layer out of two. And I'm going to rename this layer just by double clicking on where it says layer 1 and call it eyes. And then I'm going to put a layer mask on here, and a layer mask is going to hide all of the changes that I just made. And the layer mask is this little icon right down here at the bottom of the screen. It looks like a little rectangle with a circle in it. But I want to put a black layer mask on it, so if I hold the Option key and then click on this icon, it puts a black layer mask on here, on this image, attaches a black layer mask, and all the changes that I just made are hidden. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm at 200% now, which is adequate for what I want to do. I'm going to get my brush tool. Well, I already have my brush tool, and I'm going to use the left bracket key to make my brush smaller. Just keep clicking it till it gets the size I want it to be, and I want it to be kind of the size of her iris here. And then what I'm going to do is just punch a hole in this layer mask by painting right here. And I should say that since we're on a black layer mask, we want to be sure we're painting with white. And I do have a white foreground color, and if it were black, black and white are the default. You could either press this little curved arrow to switch them back and forth, or you could use the letter X on your keyboard. And again, since I'm painting on a black layer and I want to punch a hole in it, I have to use a white brush. And so I've got my white brush now, and I'm just going to click and paint her eye. I'm going to stay away from the specular highlight because I don't mind the way that that looks. I'm going to get close to the edge here, and I'm just painting. I'll make my brush a little smaller using the left bracket key so I can get a little closer to this specular highlight. Change that around. I can see changes already. Get that pupil. That looks pretty good. And we'll go over to this eye and do the same thing. Just going to kind of open it up a little bit. And I'll zoom out, Command minus or Control minus. Okay, let's look at the before and the after. I'm holding my Option key and I'm clicking on this background eyeball. Let's zoom in, Control or Command plus, and see where we're going to take it. Now we're off to a good start here, but she's a little punchy right now. So what I'm going to do is, we have the ability to lower this effect that we just did right here with this opacity. This is the opacity. How much of this layer shows up is 100% to 0%. And I'm going to figure that we're going to go somewhere around 50%. I'm going to drop this down to around 50% and see where we end up. Okay, I'm at 47. I think I'm going to go up a little bit. Kind of right around there. Now let's zoom out and take a peek. I'll turn this layer off and I'll turn this layer back on. Now that looks much better. But what I'm not liking here is her skin tone looks a little dark now here. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer using these layers with the keyboard shortcut of Shift, Option, Command, E. And that creates a merged layer that I'm going to work on. And what I'm going to do here is the same thing we did with the eyes. I'm going to change this blend mode to screen so everything looks good. And now I'm going to just put a white layer mask on this. And the white layer mask shows all of the changes that we've just made on there. So I'm going to hide those changes, which means I have to use a black brush. Now I either click this arrow, this curved arrow, or I use the letter X on my keyboard. And now I'm painting with black, which is going to hide those effects. I'll make my brush bigger so I can do this in a few strokes. And just paint the stuff that I don't want to see. Kind of paint all that stuff back out. I'm going to paint right up close to her hair. We'll see what it looks like if I leave some of that in there. I'm going to paint this blanket down here. Make my brush smaller so I can get up here in the corner. Maybe a little bit here. That. And now I'm going to take a look at the layer mask and quickly fill in some of the areas that I missed. And I do that by Option clicking on the layer mask. So I'm just going to get these pieces filled in. Get that one, get that one. See what that looks like. I just Option click on the layer mask again and we go from there. So let's see what it looked like before, after. Okay. So I still don't like the brightness on her face, but that's okay because here again we can turn this down. And I'm thinking that I'm going to turn this way down. The opacity of this layer was we start to turn it down, down, down. Makes me like that more. So let's take a look. You can see that it's subtle, but it gives us a little bit more pop. Maybe I'll bring it up just a small touch. And zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. And I think that's going to be it. It's made her eyes look much more sparkly. It's given a little bit of light falling on her hair, and it still kind of eliminates the background. So this is our original. This is our eyes. This is with the final adjustment there. If we wanted to, we could go a step further and put another little highlight in her eyeballs if we want to. I don't know, what do you think? Should I show you how to do that? Alright then, I will. So I'm going to make a new blank layer by pressing this icon, a little square with a plus in it. There's a blank layer right on top of the layer stack. And I'm going to select a white brush, and I'm going to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to make my brush fairly small using the left bracket key. And I'm going to paint kind of a U shape on her iris. Right there. and right there. Zoom out. Oh, that looks great. We should send that right off to the printer. Right after I change this blend mode to, let's see, what does soft light do? Hard light, soft light. I'm thinking I'm going with soft light. Now I'm going to lower the opacity way down. There we go. There we go. Let's see what it looks like. It just adds a little bit more sparkle to it and lets her go from there. Now there's one more step that I'll always try in all the images that I work on, and that is I'm going to make another duplicate layer, Shift Option Command E, and I'm just going to change this blend mode to soft light. And there it is. Boy, oh boy, doesn't that look just great. Not yet it doesn't, but we're getting there. So when I've changed this blend mode, so I'm going to duplicate this layer, and then I'm going to run a little filter called Gaussian blur. And I'm going to blur the image to a radius of 8 pixels. Call that good. Now let's zoom in. Oh man, that's ready to send to the printers, isn't it? Nope. But as soon as I change this blend mode to soft light, let's see what that does. So as I might have mentioned before, I try this workflow on all of my shots, but in this case I love the eyes, but I don't like the rest of it here. So I'm just going to trash this layer. I'm just going to drag it right down to the trash can here and be done with it. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to use this in 3 layers. That's all it took. So we have the before and the after, and that's it. So these subtle changes make a big difference in the way that this image looks. And it's not much. We can see her eyes popping out, but let's see what happens if we take off our highlight eyes layer. It's helpful. One last thing I will do here, I'm going to merge all these layers and rename it Sharpen, and I'm going to get my Sharpen filter, and this one I'm going to use high pass and sharpen the bejeebers out of it. So I've got an extraordinarily high radius for my sharpening, but this will work out okay. And what we're just working on is sharpening her eyes. So click OK, and here's my sharpen layer. But we have to change the blend mode here so that we can see it. Going to soft light. Now if we zoom in, we can see that the sharpening on her eyes looks great, but it really crunched all of her skin tones too. It really brought all the sharpening out. And we don't want to see that, but fortunately we can add a layer mask to this, which I'm going to do. I'm going to put a black layer mask on this, and I'm holding my Option key while I'm clicking on Add to Layer Mask, and it just hid all of our effects just now. I've got my brush. I'm working with the black layer mask, so my brush has to be white, and I'm pressing the letter X to turn that to white. And all I'm going to do is zoom in and paint her eye, and that's going to punch a hole in that layer mask to let the sharpening show through. And I'm just painting her iris and her pupils, and this time I'm catching that flash catch light too. Same thing here, just sharpening those eyes. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to sharpen a little bit of her hair that we see here. Just give that a little bit of a sharp. So I'm punching a hole in my layer mask so that I can see sharpening on this hair. We could try and sharpen the blanket that she's wearing. And give that a little bit more texture as well. But we stay away from the skin because we don't need to sharpen the skin a whole lot here. And that's going to be it. If we look at the before and the after. And that's about it. This is all subjective. I might actually lower the opacity of her eyes a little bit. Maybe right into there. And I think that's going to do it. So this is a quick and easy way to improve your shots very fast. Before, after. Okay, give me a couple of minutes to put my equipment away and I'll be right back. Okay, there's a quick example of what you can do simply and easily in Photoshop. And here we just added a little bit of brightness to the skin tones and some brightness to the eyes and a little sparkle, and then sharpen the eyes and the hair and the clothes and staying away from the skin. Now, you may or may not be using Photoshop, and if you have used Photoshop before and find it difficult or intimidating, don't worry about it, because once you understand the language of Photoshop and see what you can do with it, then everything becomes easier, much like our photography. And again, all of the pictures that I make have some level of Photoshop adjustment done to them one way or the other. And I know that there are 100 billion cajillion Photoshop tutorials on the web at any given time. And what my goal here is just to show you how it will work to do it simply and effectively. You can get as in-depth or as simple as you want to, and I like to do things simple, both with my photography and with my post-processing, so that I don't spend a whole lot of time doing post-processing. And all we did here, these simple, effective methods will work on almost any image that you have. This eye brightening and sparkling trick will work everywhere. We just were using a couple of layer masks, a couple of layers, and then some small adjustments, and that's pretty much all there is to it. If you want to see more of these types of videos, just let me know. And again, mostly what we want to do is get our pictures as close as we can in camera, which minimizes the amount of Photoshop work we have to do later. So that's going to wrap this up for today. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.